You write the Terminator script. Studios are resistant to you as director.
Oh, sure. They wanted the script, but they didn't want me.
Right. How do you pull off figuring out how to direct?
I figured the only way to do that is to write it and control it. So I was smart enough to know that you had to control the rights. And that was the only way I was going to get a job. I mean, after getting fired off Piranha 2, I wasn't at zero. I wasn't at the bottom rung. I was now below where I had been a year earlier. I had to get back to the bottom rung, you know, and the only way I could see clear to do that was to create my own thing. So I wound up writing 3 scripts at more or less the same time. One was The Terminator, the other one was Rambo First Blood Part 2, and the other one was what became Alien 2 at the time. Because I'd been out kind of around taking meetings as a writer based on my first draft of The Terminator. People liked me as a writer. I was like the new, hot, young, you know, techno-thriller writer. And so I had the shooting draft for Terminator and then these 2 other scripts, and I had to do them all somehow in like 3 months, which I almost pulled off. But Stallone wanted some rewrites, and I'm not going to blame him. It was a normal process to rewrite a script, but I didn't understand that. I was such a noob that I didn't understand that when you sign a deal for a script, you also sign a deal to write the rewrite. And so what I thought was going to be a 4-week gig turned out to be an 8-week gig. And by the time I got to Aliens, I didn't have time to get it done. And the producer, David Geiler, yelled at me on the phone when I told him I couldn't get the script done. He said, "You'll never work in this town again." So if you've ever wondered, people actually say that. Fortunately, his partner, Walter Hill, who was a director, knew what that was like. And he said, "All right, kid, just send me the pages." And so I sent the pages over, and I called him up the next day, and he said, "All right, we're going to wait for you." I said, "So I could finish the script after I do Terminator?" And he said, "Yeah, we'll wait for you." And I said, "All right, well, you're a pretty experienced director. Any advice on shooting my first film?" He said, "Yeah, don't f it up." Which is actually really good advice.